Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a great social reformer, a social servant, or you can say spiritual guru, a man of wisdom, Swami Dayanand Saraswati. This video is in English and I had already uploaded this in Hindi. So, before starting, this is my just humble request. Please subscribe to my channel if you are new to my channel and share it, like it, because it takes immense energy and time to make such a small, even a small video. I hope you can understand my point. So let's get into the video. First of all, just I want to give some of the facts about the Swami Dayanand Saraswati. So he was born on 12th Feb 1824 at Kathiawar, you can say Tankara, Gujarat. His original name was Mool Shankar, and one of his guru, Maharishi Purnanand, gave him the name Dayanand Saraswati. And his guru was Maharishi Virjanand. From him, he got the knowledge of the Vedas. On 10th April 1875, he founded the Arya Samaj. And in 1874, he published his famous well-renowned book Satyarth Prakash. Now we should understand his thoughts, his vision, his principles. Okay, so first of all we should know the slogan. His slogan was "Go back to Vedas." So he said Vedas are full of wisdom, they are full of knowledge, they are divine, they are spiritual. So if we want to make real progress in life, then we have to go back to the Vedas. That means that we have to adopt the Vedas as our lifestyle. Now we'll talk about some of his aim. His aim was Swaraj, Swabhasha, Swadeshi, Swadharma. Okay. So what was Swaraj? So Swaraj is self-rule, and he was the first Indian to talk about the Swaraj. Okay. He said poor quality of self-rule is much better even if the foreign rule is of better quality. Or you can say, he said, we have to believe in our own strength, culture and history. Or Indians should be the ruler and the leader of the India, and we should throw away the foreign rule. Now we talk about the Swabhasha. He said Hindi should be the language from Kanyakumari, or you can say from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. He said already we have a very culturally, we are a very diverse country. To cement these differences, we need one language. So he stressed that Hindi should be the national language, or the one language that should be spoken across the India. After that, he talked about Swadeshi. He said if we want to make progress, our economic progress, our cultural economic progress, our cultural progress, our art progress, then we have to stress on Swadeshi. That means we should adopt, or we should use those practices and the products which are Indians. After that, he talked about Swadharma. So he was a great admirer of Hindutva, or you can say Hinduism, and he said this is the original dharma of India, and we should adopt this dharma. And for him, dharma had a very broad meaning. We can't confine it into some rituals or the practices. Now later when we will go in this video, then we will understand what he meant to say. For now, just you should keep in mind, Swami Dayanand Saraswati said India is for Indians. So these aims define him as a very strong nationalist, or you can say a patriotic man. Now we talk about him. He was a revivalist. It is said that Swami Dayanand Saraswati was a revivalist. Why he was revivalist? Because he launched a Shuddhikaran movement. Sometime actually some people talk it in a communal color, or in communal language, that Shuddhikaran movement or Shuddhi movement was a communal movement. But this you have to decide, because he launched this movement to bring back all those Hindus which were converted either into Islam or Christianity because of some fear, or because of some greed, or some circumstances. Okay, so he just stressed that those Hindu brothers and sisters should be brought back to the Hinduism. And he stressed for an egalitarian Hindu society. So he gave permission of Yagyopavit Sanskar for Shudras and the women. What is Yagyopavit? Yagyopavit Sanskar, as you may be knowing, that is that thread ceremony. After that, one is allowed to read Vedas, to have knowledge of Vedas and as well as of Sanskrit. So he said the door of the knowledge is open for everyone. It doesn't discriminate on the basis of the gender, on the basis of the caste or color. So it should be open for everyone, even if he belong to upper caste or to the lower caste, or even he is man or women. So that's why we can say that he was very modern in his approach and he was very rationalist. So now going ahead, we will talk about his social thoughts. So now I think you have got this picture that Swami Dayanand Saraswati was very modern and rational, and he was a fighter. He was a big fighter against all the social evils, and he defeated all those so-called dharma thekedars who had defined their own definition of the dharma, and he said these all are just blunder, and these evils that are adopted by the, or you can say that is brought by the upper caste people, or they have manipulated is according to their own benefits or their needs. And you should keep in this mind that Swami Dayanand Saraswati, he was born in a Brahmin family. Despite of all these things, he was very rational. He never favored the Brahminism. He always talked about an equal society. So that's why he defied the superstitions, various types of superstitions and the blind faiths and the various types of social evils that were prevalent at that time. So he attacked attacked evils like child marriage, polygamy, enforced widowhood, untouchability, caste system, poor status of women, even the idol worship. So he said these are evils, these are the scars, these evils are scars which are dragging behind Indians, okay, and we are not moving towards the modernity, we are not moving towards the rationality. That is the demand of time, and he said now this time has come and it is now compulsory that we have to mend the ways if we want to protect Hinduism as well as our Indians, or you can say our motherland. So now we'll move ahead. Okay, so because he was a very patriotic man, he was a very rational man, that's why he talked about equality, he talked about humanity. Okay, so this you think you should keep in your mind. Now we'll move ahead and now we'll talk about we'll discuss about some of his more thoughts. So as you know, he was a firm believer on Vedas. He said that we have to follow, or we have to accept the final authority of Vedas, because the roots of the Hinduism and this motherland India are in the Vedas, and if we want to make real progress in our life, we have to follow Vedas. Okay, he said Vedas are full of knowledge, they are full of wisdom, rationality and divinity. So that's why we have to take strength from them, and we have to believe, and we should feel pride about our ancient roots and the wisdom of the Indian culture. And he said India won't be a powerful and developed country until or unless we will believe and we will feel proud about our own culture. So beside Vedas, he talked about the various social evils, and he said if we really want to attain our lost glory, then first of all we have to hit hard on the social weaknesses, or you can say the social evils that are just defaming India, it is dragging India behind. So on the next step, he criticized Indians for imitating Western civilization. He said because already we have a very rich heritage of Indian culture, we had a very rich country, our culture is so you can say so strong and so developed, then why we are imitating Western culture? Why we are imitating? And that is the real reason behind the degradation, or you can say the degeneration of the Indians. So he said, and that during the Vedic times, our civilization was far developed than as compared to the Western civilization. Then why we are imitating them? So dear students, I hope it must be clear to you what were his thought system, what were his belief system. Now we'll talk about his views on the caste system. He said one of the biggest obstacle to the national progress is the caste system. Okay, and he said the Varna system that was prevalent during the Vedic era, that was very rational, but it was manipulated by the upper caste people for their own interest, and as a result merit was replaced by the birth, or you can say the qualification or the quality or the capability was replaced by the birth, and that led to the inequality, or you can say the subordination or the subjugation of the lower occupational group, and later in course of time they become the lower caste people. So he said Varna system was very rational, so the people should give up the caste system and they should adopt the Varna system. Okay, and he said because of these all the casteism and these evils, Indians were caught in very elaborated and unnecessary rituals, ceremonies, superstitions, dogmas, along with adultery and casteism, child marriages and polytheism. So Swami Dayanand Saraswati said, instead of birth, this gun means character, karma means action, swabhav means nature should be the basis of caste. Means you can say he talked about a very democratic system. He want to bring democracy in the society where one can achieve any height in his life if he has that capability, if he has that quality, if he has that nature. So he said now the time has come, now we have to give up this caste system. For a better India, we have to adopt a Varna system, and now we should give up the caste system. So in this issue he talked about a very interesting thing, that is Dvija. He said a person who has belonged to lower caste, that is Shudra, he can be twice born. Okay, why, or you can say how, means if he has capability, if he has that better practices, if he has meant his ways, if he has that capability, then he can become the member of a higher caste. In the other words, you can say he said that a person will belong to upper caste or the lower caste can't be decided on the basis of the birth. On the other hand, he denounced untouchability. He said that it is very inhuman practices and inhuman practice, and it is against the Vedic religion. So you can say he was the one who talked about uprooting the untouchability before Mahatma Gandhi, or you can say Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. So now we talk about his views on the women. He was a great champion of the women's emancipation and empowerment. He said this child marriage and enforced widowhood has no place in Vedas, and he said that people should work and should come forward for the widow remarriages, and he advocated for the elimination of the caste system, because he said the caste system is one of the culprit behind the poor status of the women. On the other hand, he said that education is a very important or the most powerful tool, and it should be provided to the women also. So he believed without the progress of women, the progress of India is not possible. Now we will learn about his view on education. He stood for the compulsory education, at present what we know as the right to education. So he talked about this right to education, the compulsory education 2 centuries back. Okay, so he said that education should be based on the moral and the religious foundation. Means it has sound sense of spirituality also, and it should be open for all the people across the society or the gender. And he emphasizes that beside this religious foundation, morality and spirituality, we should have to focus on grammar, philosophy, Vedas, science, medicine, music and art. So now from this we can understand that he want to bring a great balance between different section of knowledge, or you can say like he talked about philosophy, means spirituality also. He is talking about science, he is talking about the modern medicine, he is talking about the new developments, as well as he want to balance the art and the music. So in this way he can say he has a great vision about the education. And I think this is the demand of time. Now we need such type of education where the spirituality should also be the part of our curriculum, because now we are just caught in different types of stress and anxiety. We are far ahead in the terms of the materialistic education, or you can say science, but we are lagging behind the spiritual things. That's why we are not able to make proper balance in our life, in our personal life, or in our you can say professional life. Now let's move ahead and we should explore his political thoughts. So he talked about enlightened monarchy. Enlightened monarchy means the king should follow the path of dharma. So dharma here, it doesn't stand for the religion. It stands for the righteousness. It stands for the justice. It stands for the duty of the king. So he said that king should follow the path of the dharma, the path of the justice, and for this he should take advice from the good leaders, from the spiritual gurus. Okay, and he brought this concept from the Manusmriti. morality. And on the other hand, he talked about the principle of election also. So now you will get confused that on the one hand he is talking about monarchy and on the other hand he is talking about the election. So he said if the king is there, because at that time we had just monarchy or otherwise we were under the British rule. So he said if the king is not capable enough to give good administration to his subjects, if he can't follow his duties, he can't perform his duties and his responsibility, then that king should be replaced through the principle of the democracy. So on the other word, we can say he was talking about those assemblies which were used to be held in Vedic times, where the king was elected through a democratic means. So, and the last point what I want to cover is that he said that politics and morality should be inseparable. He said without morality, the politics will be directionless and it won't do the justice with the people. So that's why he said for a good administrator, for a good king or for a good politician, he should follow the path, or you can say the principle of the morality. That's all for today. We'll meet soon with a new video. Till then, take care and goodbye.